Hey, are you new to WordPress and need help getting started? If so, you are in the right place. I'm Neil with Ebador Digital, and these are my 9 best tips I can give to anyone getting started with WordPress in 2020. Before we get started with this video, if you enjoy the content that the Ebador team is composing, please feel free, go down below this video, subscribe, hit the red button, ring the bell if you're on YouTube. If you're watching this on Facebook, like it, share it, tell your friends because they'll find it just as useful as you are finding it. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, go ahead, subscribe to the podcast and ask us any questions that you need help on all the platforms. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into this amazing content. This is 9 vital WordPress tips for anyone getting into WordPress in 2020. If you've been following us, you know that I am a huge fan of WordPress, and I'm a fan for many reasons. I love WordPress because it's fully customizable. It requires no coding whatsoever. And Google loves WordPress. WordPress makes it simple to structure your website so that Google and other search engines can crawl it with ease, which helps you rank higher on those search engines. As you know, I love WordPress, and I want you to have the same experience with WordPress as I have. So that's why I'm making this video today, so that you can have all the tools necessary in your hands so you can have confidence building these websites and making awesome web applications in your first year of being a WordPress developer. All right, let's go ahead and move on to tip number 1. Understand there isn't just one type of WordPress. Actually, there's 2 different types of WordPress that someone could be talking about whenever they're talking about WordPress. You have WordPress.org and you have WordPress.com. What I talk about is WordPress.org, and I forget about WordPress.com. Whenever I first got started with WordPress, I actually heard from a developer friend. He said, "Hey, Neil, you need to be learning how to develop websites with WordPress." At the time, I was just trying to build websites from scratch with HTML and CSS. There's not a problem with learning HTML and CSS. I actually really recommend it. The issue was that it takes so long to build a website with HTML and CSS, and WordPress speeds up that process because it doesn't require coding. So I was like, okay, so I need to be using WordPress. So I did a quick Google search. I said WordPress. And whenever I typed it in, I got 2 options. WordPress.org took me to a site, looked a little complex. And then I went to WordPress.com, and WordPress made it easy. Here, launch your website here. Now, this is the difference. So though WordPress.org is a little bit more complex and it's more intimidating straight out of the box, WordPress.org is actually what I'm talking about constantly. And though it is more complex than WordPress.com, WordPress.org is always the option to learn, and WordPress.org is always the option to go with. Why? WordPress.org is open source software that you can download from WordPress.org and install it on your web server. The way I actually do this is I don't download WordPress. I use DigitalOcean. There's a link down below on how you can go ahead and get started with DigitalOcean and get your WordPress web server set up. I just use a one-click install that gives me a server, or a droplet is what DigitalOcean calls it, and it comes pre-installed with WordPress on it. Super simple. Now then you have WordPress.com, and this is the option I went with because it seems so simple getting started. And WordPress.com works a lot like Wix, Squarespace. I look at it more like Squarespace. It's very limited on the customizable options. That's the issue. There's still some themes you can choose from. You can create blog posts, but as far as customization on your pages, it's very limited. You can only install certain plugins, you can only install certain themes. This just limits your creativity and limits what all you can do with WordPress. Not to mention, it's more expensive. This is the reason why I go with WordPress.org. WordPress.org can be cheaper for server space. For one, the biggest advantage of WordPress.org's version of WordPress is it's fully customizable. It's open source. Open source means you own the source code. Well, more like no one owns it, so everyone owns it. This means you can customize everything about WordPress, even the foundational code that comes with WordPress. The second WordPress tip I have for every single beginner in 2020 is you need to be purchasing the Divi theme. Now, I know you might be like, oh, I don't want to invest the money into a theme whenever I'm just getting started. Hey, I guarantee you by purchasing the Divi theme, you're going to really push yourself. For one, you're going to push yourself to do more with WordPress and learn a little bit because you're going to be invested in it. And two, Divi makes it so easy to build awesome websites from scratch. So it's a page builder. It's all about drag and drop with no coding necessary. So if you need a text module, you can drop in a text module. If you need a testimonial, put in a testimonial. You can click and change the colors of your backgrounds, your columns, your text colors, button colors, and more. So some people might ask and compare it to the Wix builder. And yes and no. So Wix is a content management system in itself, and it's a bad one. You don't have actual control over your server, and there's other reasons why I really dislike Wix. Now, what Divi has that is like Wix is the drag and drop builder. But what's best about the Divi builder is you can still customize things more than what you can do on the Wix or Weebly build it yourself websites. Like literally, Divi is awesome. If you're getting started with WordPress, go purchase Divi today. If you have more questions on it, there's a blog post that goes along with this video. Go read the blog post because it's full of awesome information that you need to know about the Divi builder. Tip number 3. This one's all about keeping your website simple. As you start to build websites, you need to keep your plugin count as low as possible. I want you to try to develop websites using only 2 plugins as a max. I'm not saying that that's what you should do forever, but as a beginner, you can get really wrapped up with using too many plugins and not understanding that they're slowing down your website or you're doing things that really hurts the user experience. So before you go and load 15 plugins onto your website, try to develop a website using as few as 2 plugins. Keep your plugin count low and your site will remain speedy quick, and you will create a less confusing user experience. I guarantee it. We're moving on to tip number 4. And remember, if you like the content that's in this video, go ahead and hit that red button down below and ring that bell. The 4th tip I have to give you, it's okay to be inspired by other websites. Whenever I first started, I didn't take inspiration from any website. I was just trying to build a website without comparing my website to any other website that had already been built. What I mean by this is you should look for other websites that you think are cool and design a website based on the same design elements that they used. Now, I'm not saying copy things word for word, element for element. But look at what they did and do something using their website as a guideline. You will start creating phenomenal websites right away just because you have a roadmap to look at as you design your web pages. My 5th tip is you should try to take some HTML or CSS courses online. Now, I know you're like, Neil, you said I don't need to know any HTML or CSS to build a website with WordPress. And it's true, you don't. But the more you know, the better off you are. I do custom HTML and CSS every single day. Is it necessary? No, not at all. But I love to customize my websites further than what I can customize them with the Divi Builder. And Divi Builder, again, can customize your website a lot. But I recommend you take some of these courses so you can gain a better understanding on how you can customize elements even further than what you could before. Online courses I recommend come from two different places, Code Academy and Team Treehouse. There's links in the blog post down below. My sixth tip for any new WordPress developer or designer in 2020 is make Google your best friend. I've heard this from many developers, and it's that the only difference in an expert developer and a beginner developer is knowing the right things to Google. There's answers to every single WordPress question you could possibly have at your fingertips. All you have to do is a simple Google search. What I'm getting at is that you need to really learn how to search things. You need to practice this skill. So if you have a question, Google search it. If you can't find the answer to that question, Google make another search term and search for that until you can find an answer. Just keep searching and you will get smarter and smarter. Tip number 7, and honestly, I'm looking back at my notes and I'm like, why was this not a tip that I told you earlier? And it's because it's a pretty big tip. And it's, you need to be creating backups frequently. I mean, really frequently, like daily. If you make a lot of changes daily, I make a lot of changes to my personal website. I back it up on a daily basis. You need to be backing it up because you don't know when the next time is that a server will crash or you make changes to your website and you actually don't like those changes, so you want to revise to an earlier date. There's all kinds of things that can go wrong with a web server, and whenever you're starting out with WordPress, you may not know how to fix these issues so it's best to have a backup so that you don't actually have to problem solve the issue and deal with the headache. All you have to do is revert back to an earlier date. I have some tasks that whenever you perform these, you definitely want to make a backup either before or after, or maybe both. These tasks include whenever you're changing the URL of your WordPress website, whenever you made a big blog post. You don't want to spend 8 hours on a blog post and then lose it all because of you doing something weird with your website and crashing the entire server. Whenever you're making changes to really any HTML, CSS, PHP, JavaScript, especially when you're dealing with like the function PHP file or wp config PHP file. These are kind of advanced files, but if you're Googling around, you might run into these files here and there. So if you ever do customize these files, make sure to make a backup before and after. Tip number 8, get creative, play around, and explore WordPress. Now, I might go against some earlier tips by saying this, but I think it's vitally important that you do these 3 things. And what I mean by exploring and playing around and being creative with WordPress is, go ahead and search your options. You don't have to buy the Divi Builder. Find something that works best for you. WordPress has a huge third-party community that is constantly building new themes and new plugins. There's over 55,000 plugins you can install on WordPress, and there's 30,000 themes that you can install as well. So I'm not saying what I use is the best, but it's what's best for me. So go ahead, explore, download some plugins that you think would be cool, test them out, play with them, figure out what works good for you. Same with themes. In the blog post, again, I have talked about lots and lots of different options for themes. There's Beaver Builder, Divi, there's Extra, which is another elegant themes theme. They're the people that make Divi. There's a lot of different plugins, whether it comes from caching plugins to SEO plugins to plugins that can give you a little chat bubble, and just so many different plugins that can help enhance your website in so many different ways. So get creative, play around, and explore WordPress so that tomorrow you'll be able to know, hey, look, I have this issue right now. Let me do this one plugin I tested out one time. It didn't work for what I was doing before, but it could work perfect for right now. Tip number 9. This is the final tip I have for all the WordPress beginners in 2020. And this one is really, really important, and it can help you go a long ways. The 9th tip is surround yourself with other WordPress developers. If that means subscribing down below so you can surround yourself with the content I produce, it also could mean adding people on Facebook from Facebook groups that are about WordPress and web development in general. Or it could mean going to WordPress meetups near you. There's tons of meetups all around the world in just about every single city. So look into these, surround yourself with other WordPress developers, and you will watch your knowledge of WordPress explode because you'll be able to talk to other people about their perspectives. It helps you keep growing and fulfilling your brain with knowledge. Okay guys, I'm wrapping this video up, and I just want to say thank you for watching. I hope you pulled a lot of information from this video. Down below in the comments, go ahead, ask questions, link me to your websites, give me your advice on how you think I could better develop these videos so that you can get more out of the content I am putting out. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.